and welcome back to my channel. For those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Amina and I just wanted to hop on here because I am overwhelmed and thrilled by how many of you have flocked to the natural hair journey, the transitioning hair journey during quarantine times. I know that this time in general has been so stressful, but one thing I will give it is that it has kind of made us all reflect a little bit more on what we're doing, what our processes are right now, how we've been thinking, and I'm just really excited to see how many people have come to previous transitioning videos looking to make that change and ready to embrace their natural selves, their natural hair, and go to the next step of the self-love journey. So welcome, super excited for you to be here. And I wanted to give you guys some updated tips. I know my last video that I had, my top 10 transitioning tips, was from a little while ago, and although I still am very firm in all of those pointers, I wanted to give kind of a refresh version for 2020 if you are just getting started. So let's get into it. Okay, so step one is going to be managing your expectations. So I think one of the most challenging parts of starting your transition is thinking that all of a sudden you stop using heat, your hair transforms from being heat damaged or chemical processed, and magically by the end of the year you're just going to have perfectly curly hair, it's going to be in the texture that you want it to be, and all will be well. But unfortunately, that is not the case. This is definitely a journey, and I think managing your expectations for each step of the process is really important. And I've actually broken down my tips and tricks for each stage of the journey in 3-month increments in a previous series, my Transitioning to Natural series. So I'll link that here, but just want to start off by, just setting expectations. For some of you, I know maybe that sounds like a no-brainer, but I think it's easy to get ahead of ourselves, especially when we're starting such a big change. We want results ASAP, but just make sure that you manage your expectations. Check in with those videos every now and then too, just to, remind yourself that you are in a chapter in each stage you're going through, and you will get to the finish line if you stick with it. And that brings us to the next most important tip, which is during this journey, you will need to break up with heat. I know that we have probably established some very close relationships with our hair straighteners, curling irons, all of that. Good news is you can keep your blow dryer during this transition, so I know that's probably one of my biggest questions, but everything else has to go. The reason being, your heat is what's breaking down the bonds in our hair over time that gives it that beautiful curl coil. So we're gonna have to part ways with that. You can give your straightener to your mom or your cousin or whoever is not on this journey. It is what it is. But with your blow dryer, as long as you use that on the cool and warm setting and you're not using too much heat, that's totally fine. Tip number 3 is take this time to get to know your hair. So all of our hair is a little bit different, and depending on what we've done with it to damage it, it has a few different needs. So getting to know your hair's porosity, which means how open your hair is to receiving moisture, is really important, and that's going to help you decide on what products to use. I can definitely go into this in other videos. Understanding if your hair is protein sensitive. So that means if you're using products with ingredients that contain a lot of protein and you're finding your hair is feeling very brittle and dry, you might want to consider finding products that don't have proteins. So just taking a look at ingredients and products to make sure your hair is getting what it needs and not getting what it doesn't want. On the topic of protein sensitivity, a really common thing is that your hair will also not respond very well to coconut oil, which is in a lot of natural hair products. So just pay attention to the signs. You're gonna know that right off the bat from just using products and feeling like your hair might feel very straw-like, just not feeling like its best self. So listen to your hair, get to know it a little bit better. Trial and error is going to be your best friend during this process. So if you have a bad wash day, that's totally normal. We all have them, still have them, but just understanding the ingredients that you're putting into it and what your hair's needs are going to make you have a lot fewer bad hair days or bad wash days. And that brings us to tip number 4, which is knowing your ingredient basics. A few ingredients that I want to talk about are sulfates, silicones, and parabens. We can just write off parabens altogether because they are known carcinogens and we want to try to avoid products with them altogether. However, when it comes to sulfates and silicones, although they are not completely all around bad and they are present in a lot of products, we want to avoid using them on this transitioning journey because of how vulnerable they can make transitioning hair to breakage. So if you're not familiar with what sulfates are, they are a cleansing detergent that are present in a lot of shampoos, also in dish soap, detergent, etc. And what they do is strip the oil off of whatever surface you put it on. In shampoos, what this means is it's taking out the good and the bad from your hair. And our hair naturally needs oils to moisturize it. And because of the texture of our hair, it takes oil a little bit longer to travel down the length of our hair, which is why we want to try to hold on to the natural oils that our hair produces to keep our hair nourished and prevent breakage. Now with silicones, they definitely get a bad rep in the natural hair community, but they do have some benefits, which is why they are found in a lot of hair products. But you still want to avoid them during your transitioning journey because of how vulnerable they'll make your hair over time. So what a silicone is essentially is a man-made lubricant for the hair. It helps seal in moisture, but it gives like a plastic coating almost over the hair, which is going to give it shine. It's going to make it feel really silky smooth when you're raking it through your hair. However, what it does as it's sealing in moisture into your hair is it's also blocking anything from coming in it. So once that moisture dries out from your hair, then it's going to be really hard for any additional moisture to come in because it's being blocked. Now, when you are washing your hair with your sulfate-free shampoo, sulfate being one of the only things that can strip the silicone from your hair, you're going to start to have a lot of buildup over time from products that are going on top of the silicone, which will weigh your hair down and over time will make your hair very dry, brittle, and more susceptible to breakage. So you can see that it would be a vicious cycle if you're using silicones, if you're using sulfates, and you're just going through this whole thing. Your hair is really fragile right now and doesn't need all those extra things. So we're gonna try to keep this as natural as possible, making sure that the moisturizers that are going onto our hair are silicone free so that you can continue to add moisture through the week and your hair will be less susceptible to breakage. I know that was a super long-winded answer, but I wanna make sure that you are informed and educated as to why you're shopping for certain ingredients and avoiding certain ingredients when you're walking down the aisles. So, and for tip number 5, now that we understand ingredients, we want to start building a routine that includes finding the right products for our hair. So what I'm going to recommend for anyone building a new routine is a good sulfate and silicone-free shampoo, a good sulfate and silicone-free conditioner, a deep conditioner, a leave-in conditioner, a cream styler, and a good hair gel. So 6 products all together. In the description box, I'm going to make my recommendations for all of these products that I personally love. There's a lot of really great natural hair products out there, and I know it's easy to get lost in the sauce as to which ones, there's always new ones coming out, which ones should I get and do I need to just grab them all? You really don't. This doesn't have to be a super expensive journey for you at all. It's really just about finding what those core products are that are going to work well for you. And then I would recommend getting doubles of a few different of the products just to make sure that once your hair kind of gets used to products and doesn't start responding the same way as it used to, that you have some backups. So when it comes to building your weekly routine, what you're going to want to do is shampoo and condition your hair in the shower and also do a deep conditioning treatment of some kind for about 30 minutes is all you're going to need. Then using a leave-in conditioner, cream styler, and a gel or a mousse, whatever your hair needs for whatever style you choose. And in my experience, I only needed to do this once a week. I know that some people do like to shampoo their hair a little less. So if you want to use a co-wash in between and only shampoo your hair twice a month, and at the very least, I would say shampooing your hair once a month if your hair does struggle with retaining moisture, that is okay. I just want to make sure that we're at least doing once a month for cleansing our scalp completely to remove the buildup and to give ourselves a healthy foundation for our hair to grow and thrive. Moving on to tip number 6 is finding your go-to styles during your transition. That is going to depend on where exactly you are in your transitioning journey, which I break down a little bit more in my series. But for your first few months, because you're dealing with a lot more heat damage or damaged hair that is a lot different from your natural hair texture, I would really recommend doing styles like Bantu knots, which look amazing on transitioning hair. Just kind of gives you a nice little wavy look and was definitely one of my favorites for the first couple of months. Also, doing rod sets is great because it's really going to help you create a brand new type of curl. You can set that with your hair gel and it's just going to look real nice and juicy. I have a flexi rod set and a perm rod set tutorial on my channel, but those were my go-to styles for the longest time. As your natural hair texture starts to grow out, kind of towards month 4, month 5, you're gonna have a lot more luck with your braid outs, your twist outs. You can still definitely incorporate your rod sets as well, and those are gonna look really beautiful. But you have a little bit more flexibility as you start to see more and more of your new growth take over and as you start to trim down your damaged ends. So those are my recommendations for getting started, but yes, it is totally okay if you want to do wigs, if you want to just protective style your way through with braids, you can absolutely do that. Just make sure that your hair stays moisturized as you go along and following those ingredient know-hows and not using silicones and just making sure that your hair is super moisturized under whatever protective style you choose to do. And tip number 7 is more of just a reminder that you do not have to big chop or mini chop or do anything that doesn't feel comfortable to you during this journey. Don't let anybody pressure you into thinking that you have to speed it up to meet whatever they think looks good. This is all about you coming to love yourself and feel comfortable in your own hair. And that doesn't have to be on a certain timeline. So if you get to 3 months and you're like, I don't want to transition anymore, I'm ready to just chop it all off and start from scratch, by all means do that. I've heard it's probably one of the most liberating things in the world to just chop your hair off and, re-bloom. I think it's a beautiful thing, but if you don't have the head shape like myself to rock a shortcut and you want to take your sweet time, if you want to take a year, if you want to take a year and a half or longer and that feels good to you, feel confident in doing that because this is your journey and you need to feel confident in it and take all the time you need to just feel good about coming into your own natural beauty. Feel confident to go at your own pace. However, that does bring me to tip number 8, which is that you cannot avoid scissors altogether and you do need to trim your hair regularly. And I mean very regularly. What's going on with the ends of your hair? If you want to retain the length that you're gaining, you're making a lot of progress up top with your new growth and you want to make sure that your hair is not splitting at the bottoms, but what's happening with your heat damaged hair or your chemical processed hair is that it is still very susceptible to breakage. It's gone through a lot of life, and so what you are going to notice is that your ends are just going to be dry, and dry ends split upwards. As your hair continues to split up, that causes more breakage, which prevents you from retaining the length that you're working so hard to get. So what you want to make sure to do, because you cannot reverse the damage on those ends, is you're gonna have to trim it. I know it sounds like a lot, but I would recommend trimming your hair once a month and just doing something. So it doesn't have to be anything dramatic, but just doing a light dusting is gonna make sure that your ends are staying super healthy during this process. And it's also kind of helping you gradually take off those damaged pieces that are weighing down your natural curls and will get you to your progress a lot faster. Tip number 9, coming to the end, is you do not need to know your curl pattern because you can't. Unless you have had fully natural hair before, there is no real way that you're going to exactly know what your pattern is because you have damaged ends that are weighing your natural curls or coils down. As your hair grows, just remember that your curl pattern is super unique. It might have different textures in it and it may not look like anybody else's that you've seen, and that is okay. But she hasn't made her grand entrance yet, and it's not your responsibility right now to know exactly what she is or what to do with her. Just know that as you continue to usher your natural curl pattern in, by taking good care of it, by keeping it moisturized, by making sure that it has less and less damaged ends to compete with. When it is finally time to chop off the rest of that heat damage, then you'll get a better sense of exactly what it looks like. It'll be here before you know it. Which brings us to tip number 10, which is patience. That is the word when it comes to transitioning. I know that it's so challenging when we are just in this instant gratification culture and we just want things now. How am I gonna get my natural hair? If you want quick natural hair, you could get a wig in this process and rock it and do whatever. But if you wanna learn how to take care of your hair in the process, this is just what has to happen. It is really about focusing on the fact that you are taking a step towards self-love, taking a step towards self-acceptance, and really learning to embrace your natural hair and the texture that a lot of us for a long time did not feel comfortable to embrace. So whatever your story is, just know that you are not alone, and there is a big wide community out there who is going through the same thing. I went through the same thing, and it took me about a year and a half, maybe 2 years total, and it was the best thing that I ever did. So I just want you to feel confident in this journey that you are really doing something for you here, not just here by doing this. And I just want to congratulate you because this is a huge step, and I want to provide support. If there is one thing that I know, it is that there are strength in numbers, and having a support system is a huge part of getting to the finish line of anything. If you're running a marathon, if you are on a weight loss journey, whatever it is, having accountability helps us feel confident that we need to keep going and just kind of gives us that extra stamina. So what I wanted to do is create a place where we can just kind of share experiences. You know, I thought that I was gonna put out a few videos that would help people through this process and give all the tips and knowledge that I knew packaged into one, and that would be enough information. But based on the response that I've had from a lot of you who have just had so many more follow-up questions and sending pictures of progress, I love seeing that, and I love talking you through the different changes that you're going through. So I wanted to create a safe space for this community to be able to share their experiences, have more than just a few people online to lean on, but an actual community. So I've decided to open a private Facebook group for you guys for the community that is transitioning to natural. So it's gonna include a lot of tips. We're gonna have these videos to just easily be able to find and check in on, just little reminders, tips and tricks that you guys share. I really want you to have a place to share your experiences and feel like you're not alone, and feel more comfortable to go on this journey and maybe make some friends along the way. So here is the information. I've also included it in the description box, but we are just gonna have a little support group for as long as you guys need it. So thank you for sticking to the end here, and I am super excited to grow with you. If you have any questions, of course, feel free to reach out to me or leave some comments before. I do my very best to respond to as many as possible, and I will talk to you guys very soon. Thanks for watching, and welcome to the journey.